Okay, yeah, right.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and very good afternoon to all of you. Welcome to Agro Food Productivity Nexus webinar. My name is Dr. Izhar Chemi. I will be the host for today's sessions. Today's webinar titled Agrofood Supply Chain, Ability to Access Affordable Food Effectively and Continuously. As the title depicts, you can see agrofood is very important for us. It's about food, and subsequently the other two words actually supply chain. That will ensure that the delivery from of food from farms to plates. Yeah. So I guess it's very important topics here. You will see perspectives of supply chain from upstream to downstream. Okay, let me first introduce Agrofood Productivity Nexus. I believe some of you, this is the first time you heard about Agrofood Productivity Nexus. Basically, way back in May 2017, Malaysian government has launched Malaysia Productivity Blueprint with the objective actually to improve labor productivity of the country. It is important that we improve productivity because productivity will translate into higher standard of living to people. How does it happen? Because with higher productivity, meaning that you are producing more outputs, and subsequently, basically, you are controlling whether the same input or lesser input. So with the more output that produce or more services produced, you can earn more money, and hopefully the organization will then share it with the staff, and the staff with more wages can buy many have more option to buy goods and services. So that's how the standard of living of people basically will be raised. So Agrofood Productive Nexus, which is one of the 9 priority areas that have been stated in this blueprint, is actually a collaboration between public and private. But the uniqueness of this Agrofood Productive Nexus actually is that private will lead all it, will drive this productivity initiative. So because it is important, I guess they know the industry very well, and they know what are the problems, what need to be done for the industry. Okay, let me introduce the profile of our presenter today. Today we have a very important, influential person, very experienced person, locally as well as internationally. His name is Mr. Kit Chan. Mr. Kit Chan is a managing director of K Farm Sdn Bhd, which is an international fruits and vegetable trading company. He has 30 years full-time commercial experience in farming, developing and managing sustainable tropical fruit production for export market. Mr. Chan also has 15 years of international consultancy experience with United Nations, UNIDO, and some of the countries, and many other organizations. And currently, he is an industry practice specialist with Agrofood Practice Nexus. Mr. Kit Chan expertise areas are in the areas of global market access, food safety and quality certification, and value chain in agro-food development. Extensive linkages with international business on food and vegetable buyers and fraternity. Okay, without further ado, I would like to invite Mr. Kit Chan. Hello, Mr. Kit.
Okay, if you pass me on, I can log onto my screen.
Okay, let me first run through how we plan to run this webinar. Okay, the webinar will be about an hour. We will tentatively end at 4 o'clock. But prior to that, Mr. Kit will provide us with a good insight of the topic that we will discuss today. His presentation is estimated about 40 minutes, and subsequently we will follow with question and answer. I would strongly encourage you see the diagram on the screen. Basically, to use your, if you were to log in from your mobile or even from your laptop, use the question feature within this go to webinar apps to start typing your question, right? As and when Mr. Kit present his material, we can straight away type. I will collect the information and summarize it. At the end of Mr. Kit's presentation, I will ask him some of the questions that will be raised from you, depending on the availability of time, right? So without further ado, then I will pass it to Mr. Kit to start with his presentation. All yours, Mr. Kit.
Okay, are you seeing my screen?
Not yet. Let me select you. So Kit, okay. Now you are the presenter. Go ahead.
Very good.
You need to share your screen. Okay, that's fine. Slideshow. Thank you.
So we on now?
Yes, you are.
Very good. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome and thank you for logging in to join this webinar. As Dr. Iza has explained earlier on, this is going to be a start of a series of online conferences. Basically, it's a communication program whereby right these days we are so much concerned and hearing so much about food security. We are hearing about food that are not getting through to places that it should be. So we thought that these kind of communication programs would be able to bring awareness to users, consumers, people who are in the business of food distribution, be it government or private sector. So we thought that perhaps if we start this series with a title on agro-food supply chain and food security, it could be quite a pertinent subject. So I'd like to point out that food security is highly connected to supply chain. I'd like to show you this slide. This slide says food security as defined as the availability of food in time of need when the individual is able to access and afford it. So basically, it is like people could access food during times of calamity. Say, for example, during a typhoon in a particular place, or maybe floods, or any kind of natural disaster, or it could be war. What we're going through now these days is we are going through a war with the COVID-19, where we have an unseen enemy, which is precisely the situation where food security becomes very prominent. But we have to remember that even if we do have food security, which means that there is enough food stock in the country, however, if the supply chain that brings the food from the farm to the customer, to the consumer, to the market, if that link, if that chain is broken, the food security does not work. So this is a sort of situation where we are sometimes at some point experience. And I must say that our situation here in Malaysia is not unique. There are almost every other country in the world today who are experiencing the lockdowns in their containment and mitigation towards the pandemic. They invariably undergo some form of broken chains in the supply chain. And in some way, their own food security situation has also been affected. The kind of examples that we have seen here in Malaysia is that at some time we see that farmers are frustrated because they have a crop that they want to harvest, but because of the lockdown, they can't get it down, bring their goods to the market. So even while growing food is an essential service where the farmer can continue to go to the farm, however, if the collector who comes to his farm to collect his harvest is not able to reach his farm, or if the farmer has got no packaging material to pack his crop, or at some point he is not able to get the kind of farm inputs into his crop, that restricts his ability to bring his crop out. So on the other hand, we have food not reaching the consumers. It is imperative, it is pertinent that markets could have to have some kind of control over how customers come to their places to buy food, because the whole reason for a lockdown is to contain or at least manage such that people do not get too close to each other. And I think that is important, and I do agree with such modes of trying to mitigate this pandemic. We have to understand that a lot of small farmers, particularly, they only grow one crop at a time, and very often they do business, i.e. with the collector, one at a time. They don't have too many choices of how they sell their crops, and they don't have too many choices of where their crops to go, meaning that there's only one market that their crops land up to. So if that particular market closes down, invariably it means that this farmer would have no place else to sell his crop. Equally, householders are very predictable in how they make their purchases. They go to the same shop or they go to the same market or supermarket each time they buy their food. To get them to go to another place to purchase their food, they do feel a little bit uncomfortable for all sorts of reasons. We also have to understand that fruits and vegetables, and particularly also with fresh meat, they have a very short shelf life. Fair enough, with some meat, you can have it frozen so that it can be kept for a few more weeks longer. But there again, a lot of fruits and vegetables cannot be kept in the frozen state. Which is why, as you can see my new slide here, that I am proposing that the food security agenda or the definition of food security, it needs to be reformatted, it needs to be redefined, because food security is not just making food available, but that it has to be available on a sustained basis. That means you must be able to get food continuously, despite of how much you have at stock. This is also because the agro-food supply chain is a very complex and very entrenched mechanism. The kind of relationship between the buyer and seller, it's a lot more than what we tend to understand. We also have to understand that there's no one country that can produce all the food that they need in compulsion. I mean, seriously, we always talk about food security as, do we have enough rice in the country? Yeah, okay, we do have 70% self-sufficiency, and that's quite a lot of rice, which is okay, but we don't live on rice alone, do we? What about all of the other food that we eat? Do we have that? Now, that is going to be quite a tricky issue, because each country will have its own main crop product. Say, for example, even Thailand, that seemed to be the kitchen of the world, they would have probably, I said very probably, produced most of the food that they need. However, I am sure that there are some food which may be quite important that the Thai would still need to purchase, but cannot grow it in their own country. So my new definition on food security comes with that ability to exchange food during such difficult times, such important times, whereby I now define food security as the ability to avail food from its stockpile in the country, basically what we have saved up, as well as the ability to access and afford more food through its negotiation position with another country. This way of looking at food security is important because it goes right down to the whole rationale of trade. because there is no way any particular country can be self-sufficient in anything that they need, particularly in food. So during times of calamities like what we have now, a pandemic, every country will have to continue to trade. Let me go one step back and describe to you how the food chain works. So in this diagram, I have a very simple scenario: a farmer growing, say, for example, chili, and then the table is where the customer is, the consumers. So getting food from the farm to the table, the farmer grows his chili, and in the very simplified scenario, he harvests his chili and he brings the chili all the way from his farm and bring it to the market, whereby he sells it himself. Very often, a lot of people tend to think that this is the ideal situation, because in this kind of scenario, there is no middleman. Farmer is his own trader himself. So the farmer will grow his chili, brings it to the market, sell for whatever price that he can. The farmer collects all of the money that he gets from the customer. Very often, I've done this for in so many places in the world, whereby I talk about middleman, and in some countries, the term middleman is a very term that everybody hates and thinks that the middleman is the really bad guy in the whole system. So here we have a situation where the farmer brings his own crop and sells his own crop, which we may think that is the ideal situation. But wait a minute, there's a problem here. What if the market is very far away? Can the farmer bring his crop to the market? What if he has no mode of transport, or a more a correct mode of transport? Maybe he has a small truck, but if his crop is bigger than what his truck can carry, what about the time that he has to spend to bring his crop from the farm to the market? Will he still have time to go back to his farm to work on the land? And what kind of variety can he bring to the market? Even though if it's chili, will it always be the same variety of chili all the time? How much can he bring to the market each time? And what kind of value, meaning what kind of money, can he take back every time when it comes to the market? So we have this situation. So this is a truck which you see very often in Cameron Highlands when you go there. Let's hope that this person who's driving this truck does not bring his vegetable from his farm and drive all the way into Ipoh, which is okay, fair enough. It's just an hour and a half, 2 hours drive. But what if he were to bring it to Kuala Lumpur? Well, that's not quite possible, because if he drives back and forth Kuala Lumpur, that would take a good 8 hours of driving time. So here we see that it is not quite possible for the farmer to be his own collector and his own middle intermediary. I mean, I have friends in Vietnam who grows pomelo, and in this picture, he gets his wife to go to the city and sell the pomelo. I think it works well. He works in a farm. His wife goes to the city and sell the pomelo. Or what about this other friend of mine? He has a small truck. He grows his crop in the farm up where near Chiang Mai, and he brings his crop together with his family down to the city in Bangkok to sell his crop, and he does this once a week. Now, maybe these people, they have their own way of sorting out the supply chain, but for so many other people, and for a more developed market system, this way of supply chain does not work. And sadly to say, you do need the market intermediaries. Why? That's because when we bring food from the farm to the table, there is activity of pre-harvest, meaning somebody must look after the crop when the fruit or the vegetable is still intact onto the plant. There is a harvesting activity and post-harvest activity, i.e., somebody must pack and put the vegetables and fruits into containers, bring it to the market, and display it to be sold. So go through the whole process. This is the supply chain involves numerous stakeholders of specific responsibilities in growing, harvesting, handling, grading, treatment, packaging, cold storage, handling, transport, all the way to marketing and retailing. And all of these activities, each one of these stakeholders, they add a percentage of value to the product. Now, that value that is added to each of these intermediaries is the profit earned by each of these people. For example, if there is someone who does the packaging of the crops, he earns a wage. That's his profit. If somebody were to lend out his cold rooms for storage and he takes a rent, that's his income, that's his profit, and value to it. So you add value and you add profits and you add salaries and payments to each and every one of these individuals. And quite rightly so, because they earn the money for providing a service or providing an infrastructure to perform a certain activity in this supply chain. So I think it is very clear cut to all of us here that when we bring food from one end to the other end and we pay evidently a higher amount of money at the marketplace, it's simply because there are people who have been working and providing services and providing equipment in order that the product can come to the market and to the home safely, effectively, and timely, such that if we need food, it can be brought to the plate, to the table. So that's really saying what supply chain in many words. Now, this is a very standard picture that everyone in the business can develop. It's a supply chain. It's very colorful here. If you look at one corner here, you got the farmer. He grows his crop that can go to the catering, i.e. restaurants, food stores, or he can go through it to the wholesale market at the top there, or it can go through a local market or for exports to another country. And you can see that at every stage, there are so many other people who are lending in a function, lending in a service, be it a private sector company or a government authority. So, for example, the customs people are at work here. The Department of Agriculture people working on the phytosanitary are at work here. At the same time as individual private sector collectors, transporters, packaging company, forwarding agents, and it goes on and on. So this is a very simplified schematic drawing of chain flow chart. I want to bring you to another situation here. Being a farmer may not seem to be a situation where he leads a very simplified life. A lot of people think that being a farmer is a very simple life. You know, you just work in the morning, and when it gets too hot in the afternoon, you come back home take a rest, have a siesta, and then go back to work later in the afternoon when it's not so hot. What a wonderful life it is. But I must tell you that it is not quite so. And I'm going to demonstrate to you in the next few slides here. So what do we have? Farm issue. What are farmers most concerned about? Low prices at the farm gate. He is worried about his low production yield. He is worried about the lack of demand for his crop. He has big problems with this middleman syndrome, who always seem to pay him very low prices that he deserves. He is so worried about the weather, the climate change. It should rain and it doesn't. It shouldn't rain and it does rain. At the marketplace, we have issues of market access. We can grow a lot of crops in Malaysia, but we can't sell our crops to Australia, to New Zealand. Why? Because one thing, if we want to sell our durians to the New Zealanders or to the Australians, by the way, do they know this fruit? Do they eat durians? So are we growing the right products? Do we have the phytosanitary compliances? Incidentally, the phytosanitary compliances are extremely important because you do not want to bring in contaminated elements through the soil and the fruit products from one country to another country. These are real problems. It's proven, a science-proven thing. It's not as though government use this for any of the trade barriers. So SPS compliances are important. Do we have certification of food safety, food quality on these products? Because all of these things account to market access, whether your product can be sold in Australia or not. Marketing issue also look at the fast changing trends in today's marketing structure. How are food consumed? How do customers want their food to be displayed and ready to be eaten? Because you cannot expect a customer to go buy a whole big jackfruit for the family. So they have to be, in a way, cut down, small, prepared in packages that the customers can afford to buy and to buy in the quantity that they want. There are other issues of bringing small rural farmers into mainstream markets, because these farmers, they do not understand how mainstream markets operate. And they usually bring their crops out to the market and they are not being looked up to by the customers. We are really talking about bringing tangible benefits to the farmers, meaning that farmers must earn a decent income to raise his family. We have emerging market trends. Today, the market is full of choices. If you want to buy bananas in the supermarket, in most places, you would have a range of 5 varieties to choose from. Big bananas, small bananas, green ones, bright ones, bananas with 3 bananas to a comb, with 5 to a comb. You know, today, going to the shops to buy your food is not just about getting food. It's a whole new experience of what is available in the shop, even in the market, open markets. There's so much of varieties of exotic varieties to choose from, niche market products, and in all sorts of packaging. That's another problem. There's so much of packaging in fruit products now that we don't know what to do with the boxes that we buy. The cherry tomatoes that we buy each time, you know, if each week we have 2 packets of cherry tomatoes, we've got 2 plastic cups, which we can't use all of it. And we throw them away. That's another issue. That's the issue of value addition. That's the value of how to get into the consumer market strategies. Now, creating the enabling environment is the job of the government. The government has a role in providing information, in providing infrastructure to the farming community. What does the government provide? Logistics, infrastructure, roads, transportation, cold room services, for example. Government has to provide information, market information. What are the prices of chili, for example, is available in Kuala Lumpur. Is that price in Kuala Lumpur the same as in Penang or in Kuantan? Well, we don't know. But who should provide this kind of information? Maybe pharma in Malaysia, they do that. They also give other information on which other places are short of products. And if farmers are able to access this kind of information, they would be able to decide where to sell their products, ideally. There's the other information whereby it's called the market intelligence. The market intelligence is whereby these are information that producers are able to decipher where they can sell, because nobody can really tell you where to place your chili in the market. You need market intelligence. For example, if you think that there is a shortage, if you think that there was some weather problems in Sumatra or in Java in Indonesia, and we are scot-free here in Malaysia, you can quite imagine that chili production could have been hampered because of the weather changes in Indonesia. And you know, in Indonesia, chili is the most important product, more than rice. So if you are a marketeer, this kind of information would tell you where to place your chili. So this market intelligence is more than just market information. And it's a very important piece of information data that traders require. Farm extension services. All farmers require assistance in the technical production bits of how to grow a better chili. There is a harvesting, post-harvesting, packaging processes that farmers have to deal with. Do they have the technology? All of these things are things that the farmer need to be able to access to, or at least to be aware, such that he can meet the competition. So, I mean, this chart here, this page here is full of words that I've just thrown in. And it's not complete. There are a lot more. But these are the things that the farmer have to get his hands on. So I hope that my dear audience here, that you would by now really appreciate that the farmer's work and the kind of things that he's involved with is not so simple as you have imagined. So I'm bringing back to the same supply chain here, drawn differently, whereby farmers sell it to the local wholesale market, street market, or the supermarket. And these are the sort of things that the government should provide. These are the enabling environment. These are the support that government should provide the industry with logistics, with standards in packaging, and with product traceability systems, so that we know where the product comes from, with certification of MyGap, quality certification, and all sorts of other information that is needed. So the government has a very positive and very important role to play in the supply chain. That is, I would like to repeat and to stress, the government has a very important role in providing the enabling activities, the enabling infrastructure to assist the farmer to bring his crop from the farm to the market more efficiently and more effectively. We have always been hearing in the newspaper whereby the farmer is always complaining about the low prices of his crop. And of course, the government, being a very sensitive body to listen to the problems of the farmer, always sing song the same problem. Say, oh yes, the farmers are having a very low price for the chili at the farm. We have to do something about it. So what they normally do is they subsidize the farmers, beef up the price of the X farm chili. Is that the right thing to do? Well, I don't know, because I'm not the person who has to deal with these things. Okay, but I would like to proffer a new way of looking at these problems, because I want to say to the farmers, to these particular farmers, why are you looking at prices? Why should you not look at profit instead? Because what's the point of having a high price? Most important is you have to have the profit. And where does the profit come from? It's from the income or the revenue of your crop, chili crop, minus the cost that you incur to produce it. Where does your income come from? Yes, it is the price of how much you sell and the quantity that you sell. Together, price and quantity gives you your income minus cost. But of course, if your cost is very high, then your profit is going to be low. So you need to reduce your cost. How? Well, this is where the MPC comes in very handily, because the MPC always work on this word productivity. The productivity of your work reduces your costs in all sorts of ways, in work efficiencies, in economies of scales, in the way you use your inputs. These are all the ways you increase your productivity, i.e. reduce your cost. And you use technology, if you can, in your operations, okay? And of course, if you are more educated in farming technology, you have the better chance here. And working with partners, you would quite evidently have a better hand. Now, how do you change price? Well, you can complain a lot and the government will change the price at the market. But that is something which I never would advise anyone to do. Just because somebody wants a high price, you just fix it a higher price. I don't think that's a very clever thing to do, because price is always reflected by the value of the product. You can't force somebody to pay a high price when the customer doesn't feel that he's getting the value for a product. You can't force it. That's ridiculous. The customer will only pay for what he thinks is the value of that product. And what are the values? Well, the values can be in many forms. The design of the product, where the product has been sold, how much of satisfaction you can get from this product. These are all the many other kinds of values, attributes of the product. That is where you can try to convince the customer to pay you more when you give them a higher value to the product. Getting a high quantum yield on your production system, it's easy if you follow good agriculture practices, if you have the right techniques in growing. So this is where agencies like UPM, they've got lots of scientists in the universities, and then all you need to do is just go to them and ask for their help, and they will be most happy to come and help you in your yield productivity. Okay. The very good scientists that are working very hard in this area. You have to have good certification. Those are some of the branding works that you can do. And you have to be able to get your products into the right kind of markets, the right kind of customers. All of these things will help you increase your profit. So this is where this is where farmers would have to keep thinking about profits rather than prices. I'd like to take you to a series of pictures to help lessen some of the points that we have made. It seemed to be a bit heavy here. So we have a basket of beautiful melons. Didn't come from the factory. They come from this plant here. And it's not guaranteed that they are always good. You have to look after your crop. You have to look after the plants, how it grows, how you harvest them, and how careful you are in handling these fruits from the plant. Okay, now they still look very beautiful and fresh. And then you dress them up, put a nice skirt onto it, you know, and the stalk there represent the freshness of these fruits. What am I doing here? I am adding value to this product. The stalk with the leaf there adds value to the product. Why? Because the customer said, oh, it is so fresh. It has just been harvested from the farm. It must be good. And you put the white netting there. It's a dressing up of the melon. Is it not worth it? Because this net would probably cost only maybe 1 cent or 5 cents. But the fruit itself, you can sell it for a lot more times. This is what the value I'm talking about earlier. And then you put it in the supermarket in a nice tray and sell it at a good price. That is where the supply chain comes in. So we have these 3 pictures, getting the product from the farm to the marketplace. And this is your agri-food supply chain. And this is what is being defined. The supply chain is a systematic structure involving participation of stakeholders, providing physical transformation, logistic coordination to the market. The chain engage a vertical connection. That means from production all the way to retail. It also engage a horizontal connectivity of commercial and physical relationship between each stakeholders. I'd like to show you this other picture here. The one earlier is agro-food supply chain. When you add value to it, we bring the mechanism to a different perspective. The value chain is when the product goes from each stakeholders. You add value to it, as I've mentioned to you before. Okay, and it's always a relationship between a buyer and the seller, and that relationship is a linkage, which is a very powerful magnet attraction between the buyer and seller. Because we always ask this question, how is it that, you know, these people, they are so powerful, they know who to sell to, they know where to buy from? Look, these things do not come in magic. You develop these relationships over time, over experience. And you come to a point where the buyer and the seller depend on each other over a long-term marketing period. It's not like, you know, oh, if I don't like this guy, I won't sell it to him, I'll sell it to anybody else. I mean, it's not as though that, you know, you keep changing partners. How many partners can we change in our lives? Okay. But I certainly believe that, you know, if you have one partner, work with that partner such that you depend on each other, such that you benefit together or you take the risk together. This is a picture that shows that even the farmer is a buyer and a supplier of his product. The middleman, he is a buyer, he's a supplier. They don't just buy, they also supply to the retailer. So every one of these entity stakeholders in the supply chain is a buyer and is a supplier. And there is a flow of information, a flow of relationship, a flow of a lot of intangible elements that goes between each other that is not well understood by people outside the system. There has been a lot of problems in the upstream where the producer do not know and have no control over pricing or where and who to sell to. There's equally at the marketplace the frustration that we are buying and paying a lot for the products. And for investment people who comes into this country to want to invest into the supply chain, they do not know where to invest. This is the area, the void, the white space, I call it, whereby if there is a mismatch of information from upstream with the downstream, that means they are not getting the right kind of data, information, timing, information or intelligence of anything else. This is the situation to take advantage of, such that the negotiation between buyers and sellers are no longer good. This is where middlemen can get to cheat a lot of people. And a lot of people get cheated. Why? Because they have no information. So it is not that we have no information. It is that we lack the access to information, which is why this was the kind of problem we at the Agro-Food Productivity Nexus have thought a lot about. And we said, okay, we got to put a stop to this. And this is why we came up with this idea. We developed the Nexus Information Toolbox. Well, what do we call a toolbox? Well, a toolbox is what a toolbox is. It's a box, just like a carpenter. You know, he carries his toolbox. He's got his saw, his hammer, his pliers, and all those things inside there. So this Nexus has got all of these toolbox to provide information to the users, farmers, traders, customers, consumers, householders, and it links with the information providers at the top there. So people from UPM, from TAR University College, Pharma, from the University of Multimedia, from Ministry Agriculture, from the industry, from anybody else out there who's got information resources, who may want to share the information with the toolbox, and the user can log on to the toolbox and get what they want and what they need. So this is the concept of what we have developed over the last year. And here we have developed now, it's not available yet. It will be a couple of months before we would launch it. It's called the Agrolink Malaysia. It's a website. Users, whether you're a scientist or whether you're a farmer growing chili, or whether you are a householder or a trader, you log into this Agrolink Malaysia and you will get the kind of information you want. And it's now, we are now in the process of categorizing it. What are the information that the users would most probably want it? Sure, you can go into
Mr.
Google and log in whatever you want. 2 minutes and I'm done. My last slide.
Okay. We have lots of questions.
You can go into Google. You can go into Google and then so you can get all of the information you want. But here, this is very precise. So this is my last slide. You are all of these people here, from farmers, collectors, and everyone. You have the Agrolink Malaysia. What you need to do is you log into the link, and then it provides you with the information. And from here, you are able to develop the kind of information and connectivity that you need for your business. That's my last slide, as I did promise. Thank you very much. Dr. Izzat, can you take me back so we can look at some of the questions that the listeners might want to ask?
Yes, hello everyone. Thank you, Mr. Kate, for very good presentations. I think at the same time, we have also lots of questions coming in. So, but time's on not our side, but I think I will show to you the questions and hopefully you can address it as quickly as possible. We have, I think, easily 7 to 8 questions for you. Yeah. Let me show my screen. Let me show my screen. Okay. Hold on. Can you see my screen, Mr. King?
Nope. Nope.
Okay. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, I see a white screen, but there's no question there.
Question, hold on.
Yes.
Okay. So there will be a series of questions, about 7 to 8 questions. My advice, actually, quickly we can answer them because we have, I think, quite numbers of questions follow through. Okay, this is your first question. You can read it and basically, what are your opinion on farmers' function in this area? Is it suffice to assist our local farmers?
Well, farmer has got an important part to do in the supply chain in Malaysia. I do agree that they have many things that they need to do, because there are some activities in the supply chain that the private sector has very little interest in wanting to take this forward. Because there are some areas where it's not profit minded and private sector, they work for profits. But is it suffice to assist our local farmers? I must also say that farmer, while they do good jobs, they have also a lot of weaknesses that they cannot overcome because they are a government entity. Because the way they operate is not as effective, efficient, and the fast, quick decision-making process is not in their mechanism of work. Fair enough, because they have to be very careful.
Okay.
They are not profit-minded. Next question.
Okay. Give you the next question. Basically, this is on the recent event of vegetable from Cameron Highland are being destroyed, as these food products are not sold or reaching an end consumer in timely manner. Okay, my question, basically there are a few questions. I just pick out the one that more prominent. Do you see an increased urgency for technology to play an important role in ensuring food security? Technologies such as connecting producers to end consumer, less reliant on workers, and more adoptions of technology in monitoring, harvesting, processing, technology in certification and inspection.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's all technology, technology, and technology. We have to move into that arena of production. But somehow, every time when we tell the farmers and say, you got to move into the technology sphere, they said, tak boleh lah, very expensive lah. You know, I don't understand a lot of this terminology lah. Look, you have no more choice. You have to move into the technology, or you have to move into another career. And this is the message to the farmers.
All right, next question. Hi, Mr. Kidd. Do you think the apps such as Agolink, which assist Cameron Highland farmers with logistics issue, as mentioned in the Asia article during MCO, will be the start of true logistic disruption for the farming industry, or will farmers revert to the usual wholesaler-collector relationship when things go back to normal?
Well, we have to be careful here, such that as long as Malaysia maintains to be an open economy, whereby the stakeholders, if they want to go lock, they can do it on their own choice. And if we give them sufficient options to go on this system or any other system, I am in favor of that. Because I do not think that there should be any specific, whether it's an app or it's a mechanism, whereby that is the only thing available. Because that is certainly not the way I believe in the way that the trade should go on. It should be an open system. It can be an open market where the farmers and the traders and the customers have got a choice to make on which system they want to choose from. That's my view.
Okay. Yep. Next one. How to incorporate the blockchain technology in the agriculture supply chain and food security?
Well, I hope the person who asked this question understands what blockchain is all about. Because I think the blockchain has been overestimated as being the solution for supply chain and food security. Well, the little that I know about blockchain is that it's an accounting mechanism whereby if you were to add your information data at one point, the same information data would have gone through the transmission to the next entity intact, such that anything else you add or take out of it will be recorded. So the blockchain is a very good mechanism for traceability. That's all it does. Whether it works better on the supply chain mechanism, that is a totally different way of looking at it. And for food security, I'm going to be very confused by putting these two totally different aspects together. So I think the person who asked this question, please write to me, and we can have a more serious discussion on this blockchain technology. Okay?
Okay, Mr. Kidd. Yep. Next one, as an international food trader for over 30 years, we rely on food news and AgraNet to supply us with a very precise farm and market intelligence. But sadly, in Malaysia, I must say our market intelligence agencies is below standard and could hardly be relied upon for the industry. I think the next question also, I think which is more or less on similar topic on market intelligence. Hi, Mr. Kit, can you share any country in the world that has incorporated market intelligence to support their marketing strategy?
Well, the first part of this one is, well, I don't want to answer this specifically because it will get me in trouble with my colleagues in the government. Look, nobody can give you everything that you want, okay? And this is my sincere opinion. If you really need to find out the kind of intelligence information that you want, you got to depend on your own self, okay? There is not going to be one entity, whether it's government or private, who can provide you satisfactorily to everything you need to know in your business. And I think that's speaking from my experience of 30 years in this business. As to any country in the world that provides this kind of information, it's scattered everywhere in magazines, and try to get hold of the Dutch publications. They are very, very good traders, these Dutch guys. The Germans are also good. But whether you want to look into American, Australian and all, it all depends on how you utilize this information. Because like I said, the information is everywhere out there. You got to be able to know yourself, what you need, and then decipher how to use it. And this is something that nobody is going to teach you in your business school, okay? You got to do it all by yourself. I'm sorry, but this is the way it is done like that. That's how I will answer it.
Okay, the next one, how do we break away from price stigma when selling price is placed by the government?
Why are you asking me such difficult questions? Okay, look, I am not going to tell the government what they should do or should not do because I'm not part of them, okay? But I can tell you that price is not the factor, it is profits. So let's work on the basis that I've explained to you earlier, okay? And let's make the profits, which is more important.
Okay, all right.
All right, thanks very much.
Okay, let me see whether I think no, that's okay. All right, I guess that's we are coming to an end. I would like to take this opportunity on behalf of Agrofood Productivity Nexus to thank Mr. Kit Chan for sharing valuable information to us. Of course, very interesting. We hope we can see you again in this series in later dates. And subsequently, I also would like to thank everybody to be with us today. I know some of your colleagues may not be able to join in, but we will definitely make sure that we will increase the capacities of the attendance in the near future in the next series. I would like to take this opportunity also to promote. There will be the next one, the series number 2, which is this Saturday, 25th April on 2020 at 11 a.m. Basically, the topics of the seminar will be pertanian dan pemasaran, elemen utama di dalam rantaian bekalan sektor agro makanan, which is also agrofood supply chain sector. Yeah. All right. Any last from you, Mr. Kit?
No, I'm fine. Thank you very much for coming online. Okay, thank you.
QR code here, which you can scan and in fact you can register from now. And I'll see you again. Let's meet again in the next webinar series from Agrofood Productivity Nexus. Thank you very much. Stay home and stay productive. Thank you.